the inverted handwriting that revealed my fiancé's double life and his link to a missing religious relic. I had always believed that a man's organization was a direct reflection of his soul. My fiancé, Arthur, was order personified. A university professor of medieval history, he lived by schedules, filed his documents in meticulously labeled folders with near-military precision, and kept his oak desk absolutely clean, with only a laptop and a brass desk lamp on it. That clarity and predictability were the safe harbor I sought after a life marked by chaos and family instability. Arthur was, to me, the rigor of logic against the storm of emotion. That is why, when I found that object at the bottom of a drawer he swore he used only to store obsolete cables and chargers, the feeling was not curiosity, but the breaking of a silent contract of transparency. It was a notebook, bound in cheap black leather, that looked as though it had been bought at a generic roadside stationery shop. It was hidden not among the cables, but beneath a stack of old conference pamphlets. The notebook was an anachronism in Arthur's life, as he made all his notes digitally, using tablet apps and transcription software. It was a tactile, old-fashioned object, and, most importantly, dirty. The leather edges were worn, and the cover bore stains that looked like grease or oil. I felt a chill. That notebook belonged to a life he did not share with me. The drawer was open, he had gone out for a meeting on campus, and the temptation to leaf through it was irresistible. I needed to know what a man so rigid was hiding. I opened the notebook. The first page was blank, but the following pages were filled with handwriting that seemed to be a mix of code and reflection. It was not his usual elegant, cursive hand that I recognized from birthday cards. This was hurried, angular, aggressive writing. The subjects were even stranger than the script: references to escape routes, access passwords to abandoned warehouses, descriptions of lockpicking tools, and most shocking of all, lists of names with numbers beside them that appeared to be amounts in euros. They were lists of items, such as Byzantine bronze icon, 45k, silver chalice, 12th century, 120k. The list of stolen artifacts was extensive, and the values were astronomically high. My fiancé, the respectable historian, was involved with the black market in antiquities. He was not merely studying history, he was trading in its remains. I closed the notebook for a moment, nausea rising. I sat on the edge of the bed, trying to steady my breathing. But there was something even more bizarre about the writing. I flipped through it again and realized that the way he wrote the most confidential notes was completely unintelligible, as if written by someone using their left hand or who was simply drunk. It was only when I held the notebook up to the mirror that the truth of the code struck me. The most sensitive notes were written in inverted handwriting, mirror writing, a technique that can only be read correctly through a reflection. Only the less incriminating notes, such as grocery lists or teaching reminders, were written normally. I placed the notebook under the desk lamp, grabbed a makeup mirror, and began to decipher the secret writing. The euro amounts were payments. The escape routes were for deliveries at ports and railways. And there was an obsession, a focus on a single relic, the fisherman's ring, lost in 1415. The fisherman's ring is a religious artifact of inestimable value, used by the Pope, and if I'm not mistaken, it had been stolen from an exhibition at the Vatican more than a decade ago. The police had been searching for it ever since. Arthur was not just involved in art theft, he was involved in the largest relic trafficking operation of recent history. My fiancé was not a historian, he was a master thief and trafficker. Academic life was the perfect cover to travel, research, and gain access to private collections without raising suspicion. I felt terror turn into a cold, relentless need to uncover the entire truth before he returned. I tore through the office. At the back of a cabinet, among boxes of old lecture slides, I found a false compartment. Inside was a passport with Arthur's photo, but with a completely different name: Dario Vlachis, a Greek antiquities dealer with a long history of investigation for illegal trafficking. The date of birth was the same, but the nationality was different. He had a double identity, and Dario was the man who negotiated the artifacts. I needed irrefutable proof that he was still in possession of the fisherman's ring. The inverted handwriting in the notebook pointed to a meeting, 21/05, Vlachis to OC, full payment. The date was 3 days away. The location was coded as the Cistern of Silence. When Arthur returned, I showed nothing. I was the loving, predictable wife he expected. I needed to wait until the 21st to get final proof. While he slept, I used his laptop, searching for Cistern of Silence in his research notes. The name was not a place. It was an abandoned rural property that had belonged to Arthur's family for generations, 4 hours' drive from the city. It was the perfect hiding place, outside any known jurisdiction. On the morning of the 21st, he kissed me goodbye, saying he was going to attend a philology symposium in another city. I knew he was going to the Cistern. I waited 3 hours and took my car. I had to get there before him and find the ring. The Cistern of Silence was a ruined mansion surrounded by centuries-old oaks. The main house was destroyed by time, but there was a small attached barn built of solid stone. The door was secured with a high-security padlock. I used the set of tools I had borrowed from his glove compartment, precision lock-picking tools that had no place in a professor's kit, and opened the lock. The barn was clean, dry, and surprisingly modern inside, with ventilation and dehumidification equipment. In the center, under dim light, was a small, richly carved wooden box. I knew it was there. I opened the box. Inside, wrapped in velvet, it was there, the fisherman's ring, a solid gold object with a signet depicting St. Peter fishing. It possessed a beauty and historical power that made me catch my breath. I had proof. My fiancé was a criminal. I could not take the ring. I could hear the engine of his car approaching. I hid behind a stack of empty crates. Arthur, or rather, Dario Vlachis, entered. He was not alone. He was accompanied by 2 large men in dark suits who looked like security. Arthur opened the ring's box with a strange reverence. "The payment is here, gentlemen. The most sacred item in Christendom. The price is in accordance with the agreement." One of the suited men spoke, with a heavy Austrian accent. "The ring is only part of the payment, Vlachis. The other part is your loyalty. The Circle never forgives desertion." The Circle? The Circle of Veritas? My mind raced with stories I had read in the newspapers about the sect that traded in relics and used Latin as code. Arthur turned to them, the mask of academic historian completely gone. He was sweaty and pale, fear visible in his eyes. "I paid. I gave you the ring. I gave you my entire inheritance. What more do you want from me?" "We want the source, Arthur," said the Austrian, taking the ring. "You are the only heir of the pure blood capable of deciphering the final codex. Your marriage to the outsider was an affront, but your attempt to flee is unforgivable. Your debt must be paid. Now." They did not want him dead. They wanted him back alive, to decipher a codex, an ancient formula tied to his blood and lineage. The marriage, the academic life, the false identity, everything was a desperate attempt to escape the family sect that used him to maintain its power. He had stolen the ring to buy his freedom, but the Circle did not accept money, only obedience. He was being kidnapped. As the men took him away, bound and gagged, Arthur looked back over his shoulder, his eyes sweeping the stack of crates where I was hidden. For an instant, our gazes met. He blinked, a slow, deliberate blink, not of farewell, but of complicity. He knew I was there, and he was giving me one last command. I waited until their car disappeared down the dirt road. I came out of hiding and went to the table where he had left the notebook with the inverted handwriting. I tore out the final page, which was blank, and held it up to the mirror. The back of the page, where the ink had bled through, was not in normal handwriting, but in reverse mirror writing that could only be read correctly if reflected in another mirror. The message was short and direct, not the cistern. The false cistern. Find the other. The kidnapping and the ring were a staging. He had led me to the Cistern of Silence so that I would witness the kidnapping and be frightened enough to flee, to convince me that he was a victim and that I should save myself. I found the true hiding place. It was not the house, but an old family tomb hidden beneath the barn floor, behind a stone slab he had taught me to move during a casual history lesson about Roman tombs. Inside, there were no more relics, but a new notebook and a flash drive. The flash drive contained his entire life, the truth about who he was and what he was doing. What he had not told me, and what revealed the darkest truth of his actions, was on the flash drive. Arthur was not the heir trying to escape. He was the new leader of the Circle of Veritas. He had not stolen the fisherman's ring to buy his escape, he had stolen it to destroy the Circle, which was using the relic in profane sacrificial rituals. The Circle was not kidnapping him, they were the men in suits he had hired to stage the kidnapping, giving him the perfect cover to disappear with the true codex and the sect's money. The inverted handwriting NT.